So as people are coming in, we're just scrolling through a PowerPoint presentation which shows one painting from each of the artists who have entered the exhibition, just really to whet your appetites a little bit as to what you'll be coming. But as I was explaining to people just a moment ago, there's no easy way to export paintings out of Gallery 247. So we had to do some old-fashioned cut and pasting, and some of them haven't been quite as we'd want. So apologies if that's affected your painting. But we got 69 people who have registered to join us today. So we're busily letting people in as we're watching these paintings unfold. So we're up to 45 have come in so far, so we'll just enjoy watching the paintings scroll through. Okay, we're up to 57 people have joined us so far. A few more have registered, so we're continue to watch this. So this is, for those who've just joined us, a PowerPoint presentation of one painting from each of the artists who've submitted to this year's exhibition. So, and I explained earlier that there's no easy way to export the photos from Gallery 247. So there are different sizes and sometimes different compositions, unfortunately, with the way we had to do it fairly quickly. So, but hopefully you're getting a lovely taste of the range of the work that we've had submitted, and the beautiful paintings that you'll get to look at when we open it up online. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm sure you're very much anticipating hearing who has won the respective awards this year, and we'll be getting to that shortly. It's now my pleasure to introduce Antoinette Blythe. She is our judge this year, and a little bit of background on Antoinette. Antoinette trained as a teacher, specialising in art, photography and performing arts, and she taught in a number of schools for some time. She held her first exhibition in 2005 and has exhibited widely and is a multi-award winner. Her chosen medium is watercolour, and she has taught many students over the years and continues to teach a number of classes, albeit on Zoom at the moment. Antoinette is an experienced judge, and I know that she has approached this daunting task very conscientiously, and I'm sure that you'll appreciate her efforts when you hear from her. I would now like to invite Antoinette to provide an overview of the exhibition and her process and criteria that she's used in judging our exhibition.
Thank you very much, Isabel. I must say, sitting here, I have a very appreciative understanding of the organisation of your society, all members who are working together so beautifully. Congratulations to you all for the presentation so far. You've obviously worked very hard at it and you're achieving very beautifully. Well, the first thing I would like to do is thank all artists for contributing to this exhibition this year. The standard was very high, which of course makes a judging perspective difficult, and even more importantly, that the criteria that I'm going to tell you about is used. I regard judging an exhibition as a privilege. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to look at each individual work personally. And with that privilege also comes a great responsibility, a responsibility that I look at the judging not as a personal like and dislike of anything, but that I adhere to my criteria, which is all about art and all about the excellence that is in front of my eyes. The judging criteria that I have consists of around about 10 points. I'd like to go through these points briefly to give you an idea of how important they are when I look at each painting. Perhaps before I tell you the points, I would like to say that the first thing I do in any exhibition, I refuse catalogues. I'm not interested to know names. I'm only interested to have a piece of blank paper with me and a pencil, and I walk around the exhibition physically, and in this case on Zoom, going through the exhibition from A to Z, painting by painting. What I do is jot down the number of any painting that grabs my attention in this first look. So it's very much just a simple walking round as you, the viewer, would do to see what painting grabbed your attention for whatever reason. And then, of course, after that initial recording of numbers, then the difficult job really starts again. And I end up going through the exhibition sometimes 7 or 8 or even 9 times to make sure that the judgment that I am pertaining to each painting is of the criteria in front of me, and that the winning paintings fit all, if not most, of the criteria. So it's not an easy job, and in this case with 164 paintings, I can assure you there was a lot of work involved. When I walk through an exhibition, whether visually or physically, I'm looking for paintings that have a uniqueness to them, that take the everyday subject and present it in a unique and different way. I'm looking at the craftsmanship of the work, the technique. Does the artist understand the principles of art? Proportion, scale, harmony, contrast. Is there skill in the use of the materials that are used? In this case, the skill of the pastel stroke, the different ways of using the pastel. Then I look at the work also, if the artist understands the elements of art that are so important to us all: design, line, colour, space, form and texture. Are all those things displayed in the artwork? The composition, is there an effective use of forms and abstract spaces, etc., in the composition? The unity and the variety of the work. Is there a balance, a repetition, a visual rhythm, a movement in the work? I look at the medium and texture, of course, the appropriate use of the medium, the types of strokes made with pastel, the softness, the hard edges, the confident strokes, the strokes that disappear into the distance. All of that is very, very important. The use of space is extremely important, the perspective and the mass of the painting, how the space is used to convey the message. Of course, the presentation. In this case, the presentation was all of equal high standard because it was online. But of course, in a physical sense, when you walk through a gallery, the presentation of the framing, the mounting, that's all extremely important in the final work. The degree of difficulty, the skill appropriate to the medium, and the skill and maturity that is expressed in the artwork. And that does come through. It shows experience as well. And then, of course, there are two final things that are really very important. The storyline. What is the artist conveying to the viewer? What is that story behind the painting? What is the artist trying to convey, or what does the viewer see in that work that tells a story that might relate back to a memory from the viewer? That's that one little thing that makes the viewer want to buy that painting as against the next painting. And then, of course, the very important factor is the new approach to an everyday subject. I mean, time and time again, judges will see the same sorts of subjects come up, but does the artist present it in a new way, or is it the same old thing as being presented in other exhibitions coming into this exhibition? So you see, there are so many points in the criteria that when you eventually come down to smaller numbers and smaller numbers and smaller numbers again, I base my decision on the painting fulfilling the criteria. So the paintings that fulfill all the criteria, if not 99% of the criteria, need to be the winning paintings. And that distinguishes anything from what I personally might originally be appealed to. It comes down that those paintings are worked through. And so I find that this becomes a very fair way to judge an exhibition, whilst still allowing, of course, when I first look at the works, certain paintings do jump out on me. And if those paintings turn out to have the criteria that I'm looking for in the end, well and good. But during the looking at each individual work for its own merits, every work has some beautiful things in it, absolutely every work. And I would like to mention also, as Caroline has pointed out, that lovely saying, for those of you that haven't won an award today, stay positive, because the difference to your painting winning and perhaps not winning today might be one tiny little point of this big criteria that is not met, just one little point. And of course, when I had the privileges of going through the works time and time again, I've become very familiar with all your works over the course of time. I can visualise every work just by the title now. But when I had that privilege, I could see the beauty in the individual works, and I could see that some artists just need that one little extra point that will bring them up to that winning, if winning is important, that's status, but more importantly, that will bring the artist up to that next level on the ladder in the pathway that we're all following. So I do wish to encourage all of you, not just those who have won awards today, but all of you. And the other aspect I would like to say is, such a beautiful society as this, what a wonderful opportunity that we learn from each other, that all the artists in the society can learn from each other's work. Everyone can learn something from everyone else, which is a unifying factor and a way that we all move forward together. Anyway, enough said. You've heard the criteria, and later on you will hear the results of the criteria. Thank you. I have also had the opportunity to make just a small 1 or 2 sentence comments for all the highly commended winners as well. So you will receive that with your certificate. Congratulations to you all in alphabetical order. Christine Burrison for A Glass of Personality. Isabel, did you want me to mention the sentences as I go through, or just the names?
That would be great if you could, please, Antoinette.
Certainly. Well, Christine, this is a stunning small work. It shows the ability that you have of observing the way light and colour reflection has hit the shape of this glass. And more importantly, we often say, you know, you see but haven't really seen. You've actually taken that information on board and you've had the ability to put that observation onto paper. It's a very beautiful work. Well done. The second highly commended is Jenny Griffiths for the Prom at Sunset. Jenny, you've used a lovely effect of light in this work. A wonderful contrast of warm and cool colours, lost and found edges. So looking at the work, there are some beautiful areas to look at, and I congratulate you on your use of those colours. Well done. The next work is by Claire Holder, The Lilac Top. It's a very interesting effect you have, Claire, where the viewer is looking at the portrait and the portrait is staring back into the viewer's eyes. You've used a wonderful soft and detailed strokes, both soft and detailed, to show the light hitting the hair and the face. And as I said before, you've captured that gentle gaze of the subject well, who is looking right back at you. So there's an element where the viewer is just standing looking into this work, communicating visually with this work. Well done. Next highly commended is by Jerry Jensen, Path to the Beach. Well, this work has a very strong tonal contrast and it shows the way you've captured the light in a very harmonious and appealing palette. You've used strong, confident strokes, Jerry. So I congratulate you for that. It's a very appealing work. Well done. The next highly commended goes to Nola Jones for The Canna Lily. Well, you've used certainly your skill with the pastel to give the viewer a beautiful representation of this lily, Nola. Well done. The soft combination of blending and detailed strokes, together with the use of this harmonious colour, has added to the appeal and delicacy of the petals. It's a very beautiful work. Well done. The next work is by Gwendolyn Lewis, Red Geraniums. The interesting part of this work is the lovely composition that you've used, using backlight to enhance the shadows and the way you've tackled the subject looking down on it. It's a very appealing work, Gwendolyn. The use of clashing colour to form the geraniums has maximum impact, as well as the soft handling of the pavers, which, although the base of the work, are a very important part of that work because they then show that beautiful shadow that you've created on the paver. So it's a very pleasing work, Gwendolyn. Well done. The next highly commended goes to Paula McCutcheon. Life at Collier, let me pronounce this correctly. Is it Keolado? Keoladio. It's a very unusual name and I'm not familiar with the place. I'm sorry. Forgive me if I pronounced the name incorrectly. Less is always more, we say, Pauline, and you've achieved a very delightful representation of the water's edge with less is totally more here. We've used a wonderful depth of tone to show the light, and with a minimal palette that really displays the reflections beautifully. Those little birds on the water's edge. You've made for a very tranquil painting, and it's a very beautiful painting. It was very lovely to stand in front of it and enjoy it. Thank you, Pauline. The next highly commended is by Helen Miles, Track Outback. So here, the viewer is gently led down the path, down the shadows, the filtered shadows, interplaying with light to the landscape beyond. And you're doing this, Helen, with soft and hard edges, which is very appealing. The use of the blues and the lavenders enhance the sunlight with the lovely yellows, and beyond the main trees in the foreground, there's a sense of calm in those distant fields and mountains. So the palette has created the atmosphere already, and with your skill and technique, you've taken the viewer on a very lovely journey. Thank you, Helen. And the next highly commended is by Faye Owen, River Rapids. Faye, this is a really energetic work. The use and variety of hard and soft edges help to create that energy, and there are confident strokes in this work. You've given the impression of spontaneity, and in the way you've handled that foreground with those confident, definite strokes. And you've given a lovely feeling to the rapids. So the title certainly tells us what we're looking at. We know that they're rapids even before we read the title because of the movement in the water. So well done with that confidence you've shown there, Faye. And last but not least, highly commended to Danielle Robertson for Pink Beauty. Well, Danielle, you obviously love your animals and your birds. The detail of the feather work in this bird is excellent. It really is. And the bird certainly has a personality of its own. Look at that cheeky little face. And it is evident by the way you've worked the pastel, shown some of the hard edges, the definition, shown some of the softness, the fluffiness of the feathers, that you really love doing what you're doing. And of course, when any artist loves what they're doing, it will show in the work. So well done to you, Danielle. And I'd actually like to comment on every single work in the exhibition, because every single work has something very special to talk about. So just keep in mind, when you look at your work again with new eyes, you'll understand that every work has something beautiful. So well done to the highly commendeds. The Best Landscape Award in this exhibition this year goes to Max Wilkes for the painting Scottish Highlands.
Oh, I do have a problem.
Oh.
We'll wait.
There you go.
This work by Max immediately attracts by its uniqueness of a known subject. So here, automatically, we're looking at one of the criteria points straight away. Creativity is expressed in the handling of the medium. It's different. Whilst this creativity is happening in the work, the elements of art are certainly understood here. Composition, balance, harmony, and yet contrast also in the colours, variety and use of space. So standing here, we feel the immense space of these mountains. The application of both soft and hard edges that Max has used gives a real textural finish that enhances the work here. And there's a use of soft, confident strokes in the clouds. That confident way that the clouds have been handled and the the angle that the clouds have been handled, and yet with softness, don't detract from the focus. Sometimes people work their clouds that they're so dominant that your eye is not sure of where to look, the landscape or the clouds. One is dominating the other. But in this instance, these clouds are just beautiful. They enhance the majesty of the mountains. They give movement and atmosphere to the scene. And the proportion of the tiny little farmlets have a wonderful way of adding that proportion to give you the immensity of the surrounds. So there's a cleverness in the use of proportion here, which is very important. So that is reinforcing that immense space in the landscape of the Highlands. The story that the viewer might interpret from this work is one of great majesty of this area. And the Scottish landscape itself is quite majestic. And this work certainly has given us the feeling of the atmosphere of that landscape in a very creative way. So congratulations, Max. It's a very beautiful work. The next award is for the best waterscape. Canson is the sponsor here. Thank you to Canson for that. And the best waterscape has been won by Lorraine Whitcraft, Falls Creek. Now, yes, congratulations to Lorraine too. There were many beautiful watercolours, waterscapes in the pastel. But Lorraine has fulfilled the criteria by the use of space and contrast. This has been handled in the medium with great skill and experience. And it's very obvious here of the skill and the experience of the artist. The viewer is transported gently up Falls Creek through a slight turmoil around the foreground rocks, using distinctive marks here, which create that interest factor, that movement, and then to the subtle use of the medium that creates that tranquil little area beyond, and the calm effect by soft application, less detailed, the calmness appears the area. Once again, the use of a limited palette enhances the atmosphere. However, the viewer finds soft light kissing the treetops and brilliant light on the water that subtly fade into shadow. So you've got a very experienced use of your pastel and your palette to create light and shade. The foliage is an example of how to use green in the landscape that is really not green, but a combination of shades of colour that create the magic. And often there's too much green in a painting, and artists are not aware of the use of them and the need of blues to tone down the greens. But in this case, it's certainly been made with a beautiful combination of lavenders and blues in that foliage. Once again, there is a lovely mix of strokes that achieve lost and found edges. And that adds to the viewer imagining standing just near the edge of the water there, near the rocks, to view the scene. At the same time, the foreground has a strength of movement that intrigues the viewer to search for that little bit more in the painting, so that the eyes move around the work. So it's a very lovely work by Lorraine. Well done. The next award is the Best Portrait Figurative Award, and once again we have Art Spectrum as our sponsor for this award. Thank you to Art Spectrum. And this award has been won by Heather Peabody, Edie Makes a Wish. It was very refreshing, Heather, to see you handle a portrait in such a creative way. So you've tackled a portrait in a unique way, which in itself is standing out from the other portraits. You show a great skill and confidence in handling this medium. a very effective and unusual way you've coped with composition and the space around is very interesting by its simplicity. So it's a lot that is said with very little, and it makes quite an impact in that respect. Within this simplicity, however, there's a very subtle use of colour tone with soft and hard edges, warm and cool pastel, and exciting movement. We actually feel the movement of Edie's breath as the seeds float away when she's blown them. And we can see the little one there imagining what she's wishing for when she blows those seeds away. So the artist has created a real storyline for the viewer. It's quite exciting. The use of the minimal palette for the child, together with the clever play of light on the edge of her arm and through her hair, adds to the attraction of the figure and the innocence of the little girl. She's quite beautiful. The application of the folds of the dress, whilst very subtle there, and her pale skin, her skin tone and her hands particularly, they're very well done. And when you look at the hands of a figure, that also gives you the experience of the artist in that area. There's variety and unity and good proportion in the work. And of course the story, it's very appealing to the viewer and captures our attention, especially in any of us who have our own grandchildren. It's a very appealing story. Perhaps we stand looking at the work wondering what is going to happen next. What does the little one do next? And if the artist can leave that question in a viewer's mind, they have certainly made an impact with their work. Well done. The next award is the Best Still Animal or Wildlife. I beg your pardon. I think I've just missed one. I beg your pardon. 2 pages were stuck together. That's not quite correct. We're looking at the Best Still Life, Flora or Interior. And the sponsor for this award was Canson. And thank you very much to Canson. Now, this award has been won by Jennifer Paul and the title Colour Harmony. When an artist wishes to paint florals or still life paintings, there is always a question of how to present this natural beauty in a different way that attracts the viewer. Artists and people who love still life and florals find it a continual dilemma. How do I paint something that I love so much in a slightly different way that's going to attract the viewer, a little bit different from the next still life that we see? Well, this work did stand out for its uniqueness. The craftsmanship here shows your technique, Jennifer, with the pastel and an understanding of the basic elements of art. It's quite beautiful. You've used composition, you've used colour, space, form and texture, all evident in your work. By using the light source shining from the right, you've achieved one of the most important principles of contrast. The light hitting the objects creates the darks, and that factor, the dark, gives impact to the work and creates beautiful shadows. As you can see, these shadows on the cloth and on the items themselves, reflected shadows going up. You see the lost and found areas of the material and the leaves visible through the glass pot. Now that's really quite delightful. The way you've tackled the hard edges of the cloth in the foreground, the softness of the cloth, exactly as it would appear through a glass pot. And you've got that subtle change of colour from light to dark that keeps the work in harmony. So in this work there is both unity and variety. and that keeps the viewer really interested. But I think one of the important points of keeping the viewer interested is the limited palette and the minimal need for detail in areas that tells the story simply. And the result is absolutely excellent. It's a beautiful still life. Well done, Jennifer. The next award is the Animal Wildlife, the Best Still Animal or Wildlife Award. And the sponsor for this award was Art Spectrum. So a worthy winner is Gail Newcomb for Four Little Ducks Went Out One Day. There were many, many beautiful animal works, and I had to go over and over again with the criteria and make sure that this work did fulfil all the criteria, and it certainly did. It's obvious by your work in this section, Gail, that you have a deep love of animals and wildlife. That's extremely obvious. And as I said before, when you love your work, you actually do it extremely well. That applies to whatever work any artist does, of course. So this pastel of the mother duck and the little ones, it stands out to me for a variety of reasons. You've not only shown skill in the technique of handling the pastel, but you've used visual rhythm, perspective, movement and scale that is very obvious. And this unusual composition. Now, normally we wouldn't have in a work a focus of a face or a tree looking out to a painting like that. But in this work, because of the balance of the composition and because of the storyline, somehow this works. So the mother duck, although she's looking out of the painting, she's on guard. She's watching for predators for her little ducklings. So that attracts attention and it makes the viewer ask about the story. The use of tone and light in this duckling is most effective, and the abstract minimal background does create a balance with the detail of the bird. So your focus is right there on that little duckling where the light is hitting it. So there's a lovely balance with the cool tone of the grass and the warmth of the tones in the ducklings. The storyline does ask the viewer to interpret what's going on, and that communication, of course, as I mentioned before, between artist and observer makes for a very interesting work in this animal section. So well done for that, Gail. Dear members of the Society, the PSVA award, as you can see on screen, has been won this year by Fiorina Sania for the Italian Wedding in the 80s. Now, this painting is a remarkable pastel, quite a unique work, and just visually we can all relate to a group of little girls dressed for a party, certainly in our past when our own children were little. The composition is delightful. Not only do I see for individual personalities described by the artist's skill with the personalities coming through in the face, but there's a variety of hand shapes, hair colour, folds of material, all showing a tonal value appropriate to the subject of these little girls in these beautiful party dresses. The shine on the fabric is quite beautiful. The artist's skill and ability not to repeat hand movements but to make them all individual shows a great understanding of the importance of the variety in a work. The use of diagonal format actually enhances the composition too. So you've got the children not in a straight line facing the viewer, but on that diagonal. And of course, that's been held very well in itself. There is harmony in the soft choice of the pastel colours, but also a great variety in the way the garments have been worked themselves. So that shows harmony, variety, it all works in so beautifully. movement is created by the expressions of the children, and that it gives the viewer a sense that you would love to hear just what they're whispering to each other. The background being so neutral too is another very important aspect. It allows the shine of the costumes to stand out beautifully, the shine on the hair, the light and the shade has been so well handled. The soft textural marks made to create the satin frock show that light and shadow on the folds, and the skill and detail on the socks and the lace trim is really excellent. The shine on the patent leather little shoes, it's beautiful. There is a very interesting story playing out in front of our eyes here. And I have to say, what fun to know what words are being spoken that has one child totally absorbed in the two in the middle, and the other child at the end here, close to us, totally oblivious to what's going on. So it's a very intriguing work in pastel, and it's so beautifully handled. Compliments to Karina for doing that. Well done.
I completely understand the challenges that Antoinette had in judging the exhibition, because I've had a very difficult decision again this year. There were so many paintings that I thought were worthy of the award, but I have selected the painting that I have, and we can show it on the screen now as I announce that the Pamela Pretty has won the President's Award with the painting River Mist. So this painting, I enjoyed exploring the different elements, notably the muted palette and the strong textural quality of the painting and the atmosphere created through the contrasting lights and darks and the reflections in the water. So congratulations, Pamela, with winning this award. Okay.
And so the Margaret Lowry Award for 2021 has been awarded to Kathy Reynolds for her work Rhododendron Glory. And yes, congratulations, Kathy. This is a startling work. And of course, it's startling initially when we look at it by just the beauty of the rhododendron itself, but the palette you've used. But I think as a foundation member of the Pastel Society, Margaret would be very pleased to see you win this award for your beautiful work. It's very rewarding to look at this work and to see the way you've handled the pastel. This is a unique study of the characteristics of the rhododendron flower, which is not an easy flower to paint in the best of circumstances. Rhododendrons are absolutely gorgeous to look at, but when you start to work on the head of the rhododendron and realise there are individual little florets that all need a special attention, any artist who loves painting flowers and nature will realise that this is quite a difficult work to interpret, and you've interpreted beautifully, Kathy. You've used the startling composition, which is also slightly diagonal in format, that adds to the appeal. You've used colour harmony and you've used texture to present this work. And in doing so, you've decided to use the simplicity of a background that also harmonises in with the flower itself. There's a great balance of proportion that creates a visual movement in the flower. Even though this is a still study, there is still movement in this flower, and that's created by the way you've interpreted the slight turn of the leaves, the slight movement in the petals themselves, and that's created that little bit of movement rather than the static line. You've used a great amount of skill with the pastel, with light and dark tones, and it shows a great patience in the way you've painted this work. However long it has taken you, there's been great patience in the softening and blending of colours to create this just gentle movement from one tone to another tone, from one colour to another colour. It's quite lovely. So you have a great understanding of this subject. No doubt your observation skills also are particularly good from what you've shown everyone here. The repetition of the colour just serves to enhance the variety of the petal shapes, and the subtle shading of the leaves, as I mentioned before, from detail to impression is really lovely. So the impact of light and dark is obvious, the impact of colour, the impact of texture, the uniqueness of the work, the space you've created, and as you can hear, all the elements of art have been put together in this work to make this a very worthy winner of the Margaret Lowry Award. Congratulations, Kathy. The Best in Show runner-up for this year is the painting Let There Be Light by Anne Malloy. Just as the title suggests, this work is a very strong depiction of last light over the mountains of South Georgia. The minimal palette and the strong tonal contrast add to the atmosphere of this work. The way the marks depict the snow melting from the cliffs create a movement and tells the story of a landscape that may have the element of danger to it. It certainly gives us a very strong, perhaps dark feeling, as well as the light shining on the mountains. There's harmony in the selection of colour, whilst at the same time a variety of marks, soft and found, suggest a variety that is quite interesting around the painting. The element of space is well depicted, using the proportion and perspective in the work, and a foreboding atmosphere is created by that strength of the composition, by the darks and by the light. In many ways, once again, less is more here. We're interpreting great atmosphere and strength in the work from simplicity. The pastel is certainly applied with skill and shows experience and confidence in its use, and also in its approach to create maximum attention for the viewer. So it is quite a startling work, and it certainly does attract attention. So well done, Anne Malloy, as the Best in Show runner-up.
Congratulations, Anne, and we'll leave it with you, Antoinette, to move on to announce the Best in Show as well. Thank you.
Well, of course, it's a great responsibility to pick our Best in Show, and every society has certain rules and regulations about the judging of an exhibition, and of course that also presents quite a big discussion amongst judges when you look at all the wonderful works that have won awards during the show. However, the Best in Show is certainly a worthy winner of this category. And when you see the work, I'm hoping that the society members will agree with this as well. This work, before it comes up on the screen, this work has a great amount of attention that can be given to it. It's just startling in itself. And the work is called Smile, and it's by Linda Diane Finch. Well, this is an absolutely beautiful pastel, and it's completed with great skill and great confidence. And as everyone can see, and it's a work that, quite frankly, everyone in this COVID situation will certainly appreciate. Isn't it just beautiful to see the smile in front of us in this situation where we've been sort of locked down from the contact with our families and our grandchildren and our friends and everyone around us? So this work shows all the elements of art that make for a successful and appealing work. composition has worked so well to create the impact. Then, of course, you're looking at contrast of light and shade, and you see the vibrancy in the subject. While the choice of colours and the textural marks of the background, it shows a great confident approach, and there's an energy in this work that really stands out. It's quite beautiful. The use of the white top is actually very important to this work. Because if you just stand here and consider, what if that top was this colour or that colour, right? But the white top is important because not only allows the colours used to impact the total painting, but the white top balances the subtle lights of the eyes and the teeth, which are probably not really white in themselves. Eyes and teeth are not white in themselves, but the light shining there with the light top, it just allows this wonderful impact. And using that touch of yellow just in the hair gives most impact. Linda, I'm just seeing your face.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, I have tears in my eyes too, because I can understand when you've achieved such a beautiful work, the impact. Just to go on, it is a very well-planned painting, but it looks as though it was done with spontaneity and freedom. Now, this is the successful artwork that we all aim for, the painting that obviously needs thought, needs consideration, is possibly painted in our mind before we put it on our paper or our canvas, worked out in our mind, perhaps painted many times, looking at different aspects of the child, in this case, that we may wish to paint, and focusing on this one particular aspect. And you can see the experience and skill, Linda, that you've used in this work and in your other works in the exhibition, I might say, too. And this is an extremely worthy winner of the Best in Show. This is a work that is fresh and full of life. A beautiful child, and the child is beautifully depicted, Linda. Well done. Well done.
Congratulations, and it's lovely to see your response too. And it was Antoinette. Linda has been a hard-working committee member for many years, and we were all delighted to see that she had won Best in Show. So,
well, if I may add, Isabel, that Linda's work is outstanding in the other sections as well. And I don't, many of the artists' work have been outstanding in a variety of sections, those who've entered other sections as well, and it is obvious. But Linda, this does show your experience and your hard work, and no great painting comes without hard work. And with every great painting that we may achieve in our lifetime, there are a dozen, if not hundreds, that we put aside because it hasn't quite come up to our expectations. And for all the artists in the exhibition, maybe you haven't won an award this time, and because the award may not have come up to that kind of thing, but I just want you all to be positive, especially in these times. Be positive that every painting I looked at in your exhibition had elements of delight. Every work that I looked at, I enjoyed. And so if I can just pass on a word of encouragement to everyone to keep going, because I think this is the most beautiful society with the most beautiful work presented in it. And I congratulate you all for a very lovely exhibition and a beautifully organised day today. So congratulations to you all, committee as well.